Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby, what is it? It is Hump Day. Hump Day, middle of the week, downhill slide to Firearms Friday. It is that great day where you can see the weekend from here already. It's amazing, amazing. Welcome to the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to our audio-only audio-only stream, to the podcast, to the social media sites where we simulcast the radio show every day on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and so much more. It's just a beautiful day. Man, there was so much frost in my car yesterday when I left. I mean, I said it was 39 degrees. I got into my car, or 30, what did I say yesterday? 36 degrees. But when I got into my car said it was 31. So I don't know, my thermometer, anyway, something was broken. It was frosty yesterday, frosty. Today, though, 44 degrees and rain here in South Central. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the state, but, oh, man, they're saying it's going to be rainy today and then get nicer towards the weekend here in South Central and down towards the peninsula. You guys in Fairbanks, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I know it's been rainy and cold, and you probably can expect the white stuff anytime soon. It's going to be one of those things. Fingers crossed for that Indian summer, but it just has not shown up yet. So I don't know what to say. All right. Today on the program, what do we got going on? Well, here at the end of hour one, we're going to catch a few of you by surprise, because Chris Story, who was traveling yesterday, has deigned to come on board with us and hang out with us today at the end of hour one to give us our weekly positivity update, our betterment segment. And then in hour two, it's kind of the same thing that happened last week. Mike Shower is flying in and hitting the ground, and he will call us on his way home from the airport. So we're gonna chat again with Mike Shower this week, just because it's always fun. I love talking to my friends, and it should be a good conversation about all the stuff that's going on across the state here this morning in almost all of hour two. So that's kind of how we have things lined up. Now, tomorrow on the program, still working on a guest for hour one, but in hour two, we'll be talking with Nick Begich III, the candidate for the U.S. House. He will be joining us in hour two to talk about his candidacy and everything that's going on out there, including the latest. I don't know if you've been watching this. Again, we don't normally cover a whole lot of national politics, but you could see the headlines already. House Republicans flounder as Speaker McCarthy fails to appease the hard right on funding. I love how it's hard right. Somehow, we quietly, by the way, I don't know if any of you noticed, but we quietly tipped over the $33 trillion debt mark here in the last 10 days. Nobody's really saying anything about it, but $33 trillion in debt. And somehow those people who are asking for a reduction in government spending and a little bit more responsibility, because, we have to face these things like arithmetic, are somehow now being termed hard right. because they're saying things like, this can't continue. Mathematically, this doesn't work out. And but don't worry, they're hard right wackadoos for doing that. I mean, that's the flavor of this whole commentary, is that they are hard right, which is just astonishing to me overall. I mean, again, not that we can affect it, not that we can do anything about it right now, not that we can make any changes or try and get Congress to move in the right direction. I mean, all we can do is look at it and shake our heads and go, well, I mean, we can see it. We can see that kind of stuff can't continue. How come you guys can't see it? I mean, it's the $1 million question that, I mean, I've been asking myself for 2 decades as I've been doing this, is watching this kind of madness. There is no fiscal responsibility in that bunch. I don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. Out of 500 and change of those folks, there's like 5 of them that have any kind of fiscal acumen to basically say we just can't keep doing 33 trillion. I mean, I don't know if you even have I mean, we have to work so hard to wrap our brains around the concept of $1 trillion. When I was in junior high school, I remember specifically them talking about the budget. This is during the Reagan era and all the things that were going on. And of course, Reaganomics was a big deal. And I remember they were talking about like how billions was a big amount. Like you were having when we went from, it's $1 million increase to, now that's pocket change. And now it's $1 billion increase, and $1 billion was real money. And now billions, we just kind of throw them around like they're nothing. Like, it's just like nothing. Oh, it's $1 billion increase. That's no big deal. That's, $33 trillion in debt. And did you see the headlines trumpeted around the whole thing? I mean, and like I said, I don't care if they're a Republican or a Democrat. They're all to blame at this point. Every one of them. Republicans getting in there trying to do their thing on, we're going to be responsible. We're going to blah. And next thing you know, and the Democrats on the other side, we're going to try and social safety net and do it. Neither one of them wants to admit that what they have is a serious, serious problem. And the headline, like I said, the headline says it all. House Republicans flounder as Speaker McCarthy fails to appease the hard right on funding. Somehow, being fiscally responsible has become a virtue of the hard right only. Everybody else. Anyway, okay. That's why I don't focus on it, because we can't do anything about it. We can't. Other than when our elected officials like Nick Begich or Sullivan or Murkowski or Peltola, candidates or actual incumbents, whoever they are, we need to ask them the questions about this. It is our responsibility to ask them questions. Now, not that we can affect this in the long run, but maybe, just maybe, we can get somebody in there who actually is taking a look at this from a fiscally sound perspective. Like, okay, we can, I don't know. It again, frustrating. But when I saw that number, I was just, again, trying to wrap my brain around, you got $1 trillion is 1,000 billion. I'm sure most of you know this. I'm trying to, again, expand upon this idea, and we just keep hearing these numbers and they start to become a blur. But when you hear $33 trillion in debt, and we are potentially going to see up to $50 trillion in debt by the end of the decade, based on the spending curve where we're at right now. 50 trillion. I mean, I can't even wrap my brain around it. Meanwhile, I'm trying to make sure that I've got, that we got enough paycheck to put food on the table and pay medical bills and heat the house and do all this other stuff. And these guys are like, oh yeah, we got money. We're just going to spend whatever. We'll make it up. We'll just print it on the back. It's just so frustrating. What are some of the other stories where we're going to talk about this, the school issue going on around the state? There was a bomb threat. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the new COVID vaccine mandate. Remember, we were talking about this just yesterday or day before, and now it's been released, come out that one of our healthcare providers is starting to do a mandate, but maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I mean, who knows? We'll talk a little bit about the Medicaid, Medicare situation here in the state of Alaska, which is also challenging, and the fact that it is September, which means that it's Hunger Action Month, and how the food banks across the state of Alaska have been struggling ever since COVID. I mean, the demand during COVID absolutely accelerated because there were many people who were struggling. Many of them were, shut down. So they weren't really working. They weren't receiving their paychecks. And they were out of work because everything was shut down. It was a tremendous amount of uncertainty around those times. And the amount of demand on the food banks across the state of Alaska absolutely exploded. And what we found out right now is that need hasn't gone away. There's an article over on Alaska's news source, KTUU, where they talk about this. And according to Kara Durr, who's with the Food Bank of Alaska, this year, we've seen a record need among our partners. Many are reporting record months and record years. Alan Boudall, who's the director of the Lutheran Social Services, said that the mobile food pantry it operates has experienced a steady rise in the number of people. He said they do anywhere from 180 to 245 families a week. Last week, it was 243. The drive-through pantry, which is held every Tuesday in the parking lot of a local Anchorage church, organizer says the line of cars waiting often starts an hour before the food distribution begins. An hour, they're parked there. And they found there's a really diverse crowd. You got a mother who said she's feeding 5 kids, a man who said his paycheck didn't stretch far enough to feed his family, and a couple who said they were homeless and drove in from the Matsu. He said they'd been homeless for a year now, living in a garage with no plumbing or anything. And they said they come down there once a month from Wasilla to go to the food banks and then go home. And he said, that's our month's worth of food. I mean, it's a brutal thing. So September is Action Hunger Month. In food pantries say they rely on donations to help fill their shelves, as well as purchasing food from the Food Bank of Alaska. And the food bank's got a lot of different ideas if you want to help out, which is at foodbankofalaska.org if you want to find out more about that. But it is a tough thing. I mean, I trust me, I got 3 kids at home. And when I look at that Costco bill every 2 weeks, my wife has to go to Costco every 2 weeks. And I look at that Costco bill and I go, oof. I mean, I'm just lucky now that my oldest son has moved out of the house and he's gone, because that kid could grind through some groceries like there ain't no tomorrow. That kid was, I mean, he's a runner, he's a worker, he was going. That kid could eat some grub. And I'm a little thankful. And the first thing he said to me after about 3 months out, he goes, man, Dad, food is expensive. And I'm like, welcome to the party, pal. Now you see why I was always after you, to make sure you ate all the leftovers and did all the stuff that yeah, it's expensive. I could see why everybody's having a hard time. Like I said, people, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle. So if you feel like you can give back, maybe you've got some old canned food or things you want to rotate out or whatever. Anyway, foodbankofalaska.org is where you can go to help with the September Hunger Action Month, to help out the local communities. God forbid, but for the grace of God, therefore go I, kind of thing. That's what it's all about. All right, we got more coming up. We're going to talk about the schools here in a minute. And the email that was received by 12, 26. I mean, I heard all kinds of numbers, but we'll We'll get into that and hear more tomorrow, in the next segment, and we'll be back. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the break. There we go. Good morning. Donna says it's hard to be right. It's hard, right? It's hard to be right. It is hard to be right. Oh, come on. This thing's already giving me a hard time this morning. Unfortunately, I'm about to walk out the door already. Let's pray what was this, Bill? Let's pray I don't crash and burn on the deck steps again this morning. At least it's raining, not frost this morning. Oof. Oh, did you slip on the deck yesterday? It was crazy. I went out to my car and there was it was frosty. I'd start and sit there for a minute, let my windows defrost. It was amazing. The debt to GDP is going. Harold says the debt GDP is going to worsen if the government shutters for any length of time. Idiot GOP can't even agree with himself. I mean, somebody's got to call a woe on this, Harold. You can't say that this is the way to go. That we just can't, that we just can keep spending, this. I mean, come on. It's, It is insane. It has nothing to do with Trump. I don't understand this. Trump expanded its spending in the government. I don't know why you keep saying that. Trump, I mean, this is a fiscal responsible versus fiscally irresponsible question. This has nothing to do with any of that. All right. The jab is back. When they mandate the jab, make sure they fire you for refusing, because now they are saying they didn't mandate the jab last time. Okay. Let's go here. Groceries. Imagine if they got Brian says, imagine if those people got their full PFD, but the governor's more important than the people and is supposed to serve. Exactly. That's exactly it right there. $5.40 for heating oil, says Bill. Oof. Melody says, my Wednesdays are my mental health day, aka I do nothing day. I really enjoy my Wednesday. You deserve a break today. I would love that. I would love to do that. I would love to be there. Yes, MD, says Anthony. I have teenage boys, otherwise known as mobile Sarlacc pits. Oh my God, those kids can grind through some groceries. Man, when they were, yeah. I mean, it's just as they got older and my son got bigger and taller and he was doing more athletic things. He was running, he was working out, he was doing all this stuff. That kid ate even more. And it was just, oh man, it's brutal. I start going back and looking at my bank account. It's got a feature in it where you can categorize stuff by what your spending was like over the last quarter. And I go back and I look at my grocery bills and I'm like, good God almighty. You could, holy cow. I told my wife, I said, you need to make sure that we're getting only essentials, because I think we're getting something extra in here. Oof. Brian had to Google what Sarlacc pit is. That's the pit that swallows Boba Fett in the second Star Wars movie. It's the one that eats anything. It eats anything. Mobile garbage disposals, I suppose, would be the other, less Star Wars-y term. But I mean, they're just eating machines. Yeah. Mine is 12 years old, and the grocery store runs my life. I mean, that's, thank God we have, I have a wife who works well with me in putting together food storage and all that stuff. I mean, it's because, man, if she had to go into town more than twice a month to do that, it's crazy. Every now and then she has to do a run in, like 3 runs in a single month. That's when I cringe. There's some grub being grinded on that stuff. I mean, when your grocery bill is like $1,200 a month, you're like, what? Come on. All right. We got to go. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Okay. We're just talking about teenage boys in the chat room. People are like, yeah, I got teenage boys. It's like the bottomless pit, man. I mean, when you start looking at your bills and you're like, what's this $1,200 a month food bill? What the? I mean, man. I mean, you're feeding 6 people, but at some point you're like, somebody needs to cut back. Maybe it's me. Maybe I need to cut back. Maybe that's what it's at. Maybe I should cut back on the donuts, right? Maybe that's because we got to leave some for the wildlife, right? Did you guys see this? Did you guys see the J Bear, the Bear Patrol, the Bear Donut Bandits, the 2 Bear Donut Bandits? A pair of bears raided a Krispy Kreme donut truck on J Bear last week. Did we talk about this? I don't know if we did. I know I read the story for one of the radio stations when I was doing the News Minute, but this was like, it was crazy. Apparently, the driver who was making off his normal delivery route on J Bear left his doors open, which he normally does when he stopped at a store. But this time, a sow and one of her cubs just sauntered into the truck and started eating. They just started eating, and they would not be dislodged. They had the doors were open, so they were trying to get them out of the truck. So they're banging on the side of the truck and everything else. And they went through like 4 boxes of donut holes and a bunch of, they got a picture of it on the website. It is crazy stuff. But I mean, they just kind of ground through all these donuts. And finally, they had to get the MPs to come over and blast sirens into the truck, like point the sirens into the truck and blast the truck with sound waves. And the bears eventually came out and wandered out into the convenience store. The manager of the Krispy Kreme said the delivery driver is now going to close his door when he stops at the shop. He said, we're cautious when we come in and when we leave. When we take out the garbage, we do it in pairs, especially if it's dark. I mean, yeah, because once those bears get a taste for donuts, no one is safe. A picture of these 2 bears in the back of the truck just rolling around and crunching on the donuts is fantastic. So I guess no Krispy Kreme for me. I don't like Krispy Kreme donuts anyway. I mean, I know that's sacrilegious for some of you. I know that's sacrilegious, but it's just, I like a cakey donut. I like cake donuts better. Just if you're looking to get me something for my birthday, cake donuts are better than anything else. All right, well, let's get to the big story, which came up yesterday, and it kind of a spooky thing. I mean, again, if you needed another reason why homeschooling your kid might be the way to go, if you can do it. I know there are going to be people out there that you keep saying that and I can't do it. All right, that's fine. I'm not talking to you then. I'm just talking for people who could do it. Multiple school districts across Alaska, including Anchorage, received an emailed bomb threat on Tuesday, prompting some districts to take steps in response to this, including evacuation. Now, the troopers said yesterday afternoon that the threat did not appear credible, They're investigating the source of the threat with the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management are all part and parcel of this deal. Deed wrote in a statement, that's the Department of Education and Early Development, school districts are following their emergency response plans, working with their local authorities and communicating with their schools and parents accordingly. KTUU confirmed that the Cuspic School District, the Lower Kuskokwim, the Southeast Alaska School District, the Annette Island School District, Dillingham City School District, Hoonah City School District, and ASD were among the districts that received the threat. The Cordova School District also reported 3 of its school board members received threatening emails, and more. Now, according to Must Read, the Annette Island School Districts, which oversees the Metlakatla schools, told parents on Facebook that 25 school districts received the bomb threat letter. And ADN or KTUU is saying it was 12. So, I mean, you're hearing any range in between 12 to 25. And now the Mat-Su didn't. And I don't think Fairbanks did, not that I heard of. If anybody, Fairbanks in the chat room wants to sound off, but it was kind of across the state. Now, you'll remember that last year, there was similar instances where on the same day, several schools, including schools in the Mat-Su, were called with bomb threats and everything else. I don't know what's going on. But again, they have to be better. They have to be safer than sorry. Could you imagine receiving a bomb threat that was nonspecific and, and everything else, and then something happened? They have to take it seriously. Which again reminds me why I'm very happy that all my kids were home and safe doing their school here. So I don't know, maybe just something that's going on, but they have got every law enforcement agency in the state, I guarantee you, is paying attention. I don't remember. Does anybody remember? Did they actually catch somebody in regards to those bomb threats last year at the schools? I don't recall. I know the Mat-Su was affected. And there was a couple other places. I think there was another in Anchorage. I think there was a school at the same time. But it wasn't, at that point, it wasn't against the district. It was against specific schools. So, I mean, these were whole districts. I mean, what do you do? How do you, I don't know. So, and apparently some of them were email threats. So I don't know if they were phone calls, all email threats or all phone calls. But again, reason number 1223 why I would want to homeschool my kids, because I mean, wow. Nobody wants to deal with that right now. Nobody. But an email threat is what the ADN says it was an email threat received by multiple Alaska school districts. So apparently only through email, which good luck with the cybercrime task force trying to figure out and track down who sent what email and from where. That'll be interesting to see. Okay. So just making you aware, schools are open pretty much everywhere today. That yesterday, some of the schools shut down, not ASD, not the Anchorage School District, but many of the other ones did shut down. But they said they weren't that credible, so they're going to start up again today. So fingers crossed, this is just some crank who decided to see what kind of headlines they could get out of this kind of stuff. All right. The Alaska DMV is now considering some changes to how they do business. They're trying to improve. This is according to Ken Truitt, the spokesperson for the Department of Administration, which controls the DMV. They're trying to improve the experience for people. Doesn't that just seems like such an oxymoron. The DMV is trying to improve the experience for people. I mean, it's just such a cliche. I mean, they got it in movies and TV and everything else that the DMV is because it's so true, right? It's just so true. So the DMV is trying some new things. They public notices. They're doing what they call RFIs, requests for information. That are being published by the DMV to put out a call for answers, asking for the pros and cons of various ideas. Public notices show the DMV is investigating the possibility of self-service kiosks in higher traffic areas, a mobile application that allows Alaskans to renew licenses and registrations remotely, and an artificial intelligence chatbot to answer questions asked of the DMV. So those are a few that they've got out there. They have also, of course, they eliminated the front license plate requirement, which is going to save them a couple $100,000 a year. And they moved to a redesign of the state standard license plate with a new typeface. I don't know. I've seen a few of them around. They look a little weird because you're not used to them. But the biggest elimination that they're considering right now is whether to eliminate the month and date stickers from the from the plates. 3 states have already eliminated the requirements for license plates to carry stickers. So apparently you're still required to register your vehicle, but you just don't have a visible or physical sign that your registration is up to date. Now, I could see that could lead to a bunch of different issues for sure, but I mean, there you go. That would be a way to do it. I mean, I guess the only thing that I would see that it would make the only change that I would see was that you wouldn't be worried the next time the trooper pulled up behind you at a stoplight and you realized that your registration was out of date and you got your sticker on your back of your car. Right? Because you still have to have the registration if you get pulled over. You still have, if you have an accident, you still have to. I mean, I can only think that there must be some kind of heavy fine involved in something like that if you're driving without registration. I can only imagine that would be it. That might be the only thing that it would eliminate for us is that fear of, oh, maybe I should, is my tags up to date? I can't remember. My tags are up to date. I hope that trooper behind me doesn't see my license plate. I need to check it when I get out at the grocery store to make sure my registration's up to date. Anyway, I mean, it's good to see that they're trying to adapt and overcome and all that kind of stuff. But the stickering program in other states, again, 3 states have seen this change. New Jersey eliminated it in 2004, then Connecticut in 2010, and Pennsylvania in 2016. And all the states still require vehicles to be re-registered, obviously. But there were some interesting things that happened. At the time Pennsylvania eliminated its stickering program, the state's DOT claimed it would save $3.1 million per year in administration cost. Then 3 years later, they proposed reinstating it, noting that the number of vehicles registered in the state plunged after the requirement was eliminated. The cost of the state, the plunge in registrations, possibly due to residents dodging the licensing requirement, which they couldn't prove, cost the state $22 million in reduced fees. At a subsequent hearing, a state official attributed the drop in registrations to normal fluctuations. But I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm all for it. At this point, what does it matter? All my cars except for my new one are all permanent tagged anyway. So they've all got the permanent sticker on them anyway. So where you go from there? What are you going to do? All right. Chris Story is coming up here in just a second. We're going to talk with him. He is going to tell us about your quest awaits. Your quest awaits, adventurer. He's going to tell us about that, and we're going to get all on board here. All right, Chris Story up next. Our weekly Betterment segment. It's all directly ahead. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, let's let me get my poop in a group here. Let me get my here. before I come back over to the chat room to see what you guys are saying. And look at that. It's connected. It's all connected now. Yeah. There we go. Okay, we got it. Let's get him on the line. See what he has to say. Hey, it works.
Good morning, Michael.
Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And you this morning?
You know, I have no complaints. Nobody listens anyway. So what does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
What does it?
That's right, especially at 6:45.
What does it really matter? We've heard this before, right? So how was your trip on the river? You look like you were having a good time.
Fantastic. No fish, but lots of fishing and great times. Just 3 generations having a blast.
3 generations of stories. I don't know how that works. That's like
It's like 3 chapters.
It's like a trilogy. It's like a trilogy.
Yeah,
It's a trilogy,
there you go.
right? Either that or it's like one of those really 4-inch thick fantasy tomes that's like 1,800 pages. You know, it takes you 47 hours to read.
Or Tolkien or whatever. But it was a trilogy or a tragedy if you count no fish. But I don't care.
Yeah.
I wanted to go for the experience. Yeah, fish would have been great, but it wasn't what I was there for.
Yeah, no, fishing is, if you catch fish while you're fishing, that's a bonus.
Right.
Kind of at that point. All right. Well, today your quest awaits. We're going to talk about that here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
If you will hold the line for me, I will go over to the chat room and clear them up and see what
Please.
they've been talking about. So, Chris Story, hold the line for me for just a second. Let me go over here and see what you guys have to say. Okay. Bears like sweet. Free donuts for Bear Days. I love that. I don't like Krispy Kreme either, says Melody. No, I mean, they're just, you got to have one once just to see, and they're okay. But I like cake donuts. I like big cake donuts. That's my thing. Bomb threat. My tinfoil hat salute to the establishment for bringing Alaska into the fold. Terry Lyons, Terry Rick's also, he goes, he's not, Rick is also not impressed with the, Krispy Kreme's fine. It's just, again, I'm not looking for the fluffy donut, and they're tiny. They're small. You go to King's Donuts, you go to Dino's Donuts, or you go to Jason's Donuts. You want big donuts, you go to Jason's Donuts. Those are big donuts. All right. I'm going to say that you're being racist. The fault is spread equally amongst all the seated reps. Who's being racist? Did I miss something? The fault is spread equally amongst all the seated reps and senators. I'm like, they're all to blame. I think that's what I said. But Idea Homeschool, their office also received a bomb threat yesterday. Oh, great. Good point. Smartest law enforcement in the world can't figure out how cocaine ended up in the White House. Okay. Free coffee and donuts. Oh, now they've all got the ideas. Free coffee and donuts. Maybe live music at the DMV. Terry says the DMV and Palmer have the meanest employees I've ever encountered. You can just do it by mail. Yeah. No tabs on your plate will lead to more traffic stops, says Jeannie. Yeah, I don't know. Texas and other states have registration on the windshield, not on the plate. More traffic stops lead to more tickets, said Jeannie. Greg says he uses the tags and title. I mean, the UMV or whatever they call them. Yeah, I've done that. That's pretty easy. I mean, that's, I'd pay the extra $5 or $10 just to not have to sit in line at the DMV. All right. Have you ever tried, let's see, listen to the rhythm of the, there's a chamber meeting in Kenai on Tuesday at the visitor center for candidates. Time outdated. Plates are scanned and run before the officers even sees a violation. Out-of-date plates are highlighted with an alarm tone. What, they're looking at it with a camera the whole time? I had no idea. Jeannie, you'll have to tell me about that because I had no idea. Oh, chocolate old-fashioned donut? Melody, why are you doing that to me? Why are you doing that to me? Jason's is actually didn't close, Terry. They moved to Eagle River. They're in Eagle River. I, in fact, had a Jason's donut last week, and they're good. There are certain ones that I definitely like better, just because. Yum. All right, let's stop talking about donuts. Chris, stories in the wings.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke show.
A pain in the what? No, I dare you say it. I dare you to say it. This town needs an enema. All right, welcome back to the program. When you come back, when you're coming back to us here, we are joined this morning by Chris Story, who normally is with us on Tuesdays in hour 2, but he was traveling and he was kind enough to decide to come on with us here this morning and give us our weekly betterment session. We call it our weekly life coaching lesson. Now, usually we need it after getting beat to death by Brad Keithley on Tuesday mornings. We need a little bit of an uplift, but today we're just going to have to deal with it. Today he talks about his topic is going to be your quest awaits, adventurer. So, Chris, what's happening, my friend? How you doing?
Doing well, Michael. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. It's and accommodating my schedule. We had a blast. We were on a quest of our own, which I don't know if this happens to you, but when you're reading or just whatever it is, when you're tuned in or cued into something, it keeps coming up. And I don't know if it's merely an act of your reticular activating system in your brain engaging, or if it's a message. You mean
like when you're thinking about buying a specific like car or something, and then all you see on the road is that car? Is that what you're talking about?
This is even more subtle than that. It's just a word. The word quest keeps coming up in my life. I'm talking about very disparate places and from different kinds of people, diametrically opposed. It's not just that I went to a Honda shop one day or a Honda dealer, and now I'm seeing Hondas on the road. This is more like coming at me, but stitched together. And I thought, I'm going to pay attention to it. So I don't always, but sometimes I do. And that's the word quest. It keeps coming up. And I started thinking about it this morning. In fact, in my library, I was just sitting here drinking coffee and thinking about why. What's going on? I mean, I'm not exactly a world traveler. I'm not ready to or wanting to go out on some big, epic journey. What is this word quest? What's happening? And I realized I have an individual quest. It's not in a far-off land. It's not a journey of epic proportions that'll require me to renew my passport and get visas for exotic countries. It's a request for a quest, I think, that's close at hand. And in fact, Michael, are you ready for this? I think it starts in your own backyard. That's right. I said I went there.
Oh, yeah. classy promotional tie-in at the same time. Author of The Backyard Millionaire, Chris Story, is our guest. So how do we, I mean, when you say the word quest, I see the word quest all the time because I'm a nerd, Chris. You know, it's D&D, it's World of Warcraft, it's some fantasy novel that I'm reading, and they're talking about their epic quest they must complete.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you hearing it? You're just hearing it in everyday life?
Yeah, that's the weird part. Exactly. In a business book that I'm reading, or a book on happiness, or an old Mickey Spillane novel, or just like weird, just like, you know what I mean? Like, or in conversation I overheard at a restaurant the other day. It's like, it's just odd, just ways that it was coming at me. And I said, I'm going to pay attention to this, because here's what I think. I think really the battle for America, the battle for the heart and soul of America, the battle for our freedom, the battle for our democracy, our representative democracy, this great experiment of America, is in your own backyard. If America is to falter, it will not be because we were busy spreading democracy in far-off lands. If America is going to falter, it's because we lost the homeland right here in your own backyard. So the quest I suggest is about ownership. Yes, I want you to own 4 homes. I want you to buy land. I want you to buy homes. I want you to own your town. I want you to own your community and more of your own neighborhood as you're able. But that's not the only quest. I think the other piece of this puzzle is to plug in. The quest I suggest is that you plug in right now where you are with what you've got. We've talked about this before. Local news you have to go get. City Hall, what's done at your local city hall or your town council or your assembly isn't going to end up on Fox News that night, CNN, MSNBC, or Newsmax. It's not. It's going to end up on some back page of a small sliver of a paper, maybe, or on an obscure website, or maybe if they go far enough that somebody like you, Michael, comes across your radar, you'll pick it up and amplify it. Otherwise, it's up to me. It's up to you. You have to pay attention, plug in, figure out what's happening in your own backyard, and defend your own homeland. You saw what happened in New Mexico with the governor. It was up to a local sheriff to say, I'm not enforcing that the violation of the Second Amendment. No, you got to find somebody else. Okay, she pitched it to the state troopers. Well, then it was going to become up to those individual state troopers to say, BS, I'm not enforcing your bogus anti-constitutional law. No way. Obviously, the courts struck her down. But the point is, individually, you have a quest where you are with what you've got. It's not just about going to DC or your own state capital. It's where you are right now, right here is our time. The battle's here. China isn't buying farmland in America at gunpoint. We are selling it to them. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, they're not going door to door with a gun or explosive device saying, we're going to take your home from you. No, you are selling it to them. They have a goal to own, what is it, 3/4 of all the single family residents in America. We can't let them do that. It isn't up to your senator or representative. It's up to you, right where you are with what you've got. That's your quest.
So you're kind of hearkening back to what I've been talking about for a long time, which is, I really, for the most part, I mean, occasionally now and then something will catch my eye, but for the most part, I've kind of stopped paying attention to the national politics because I can't really affect it. And what I should be working on is things that are happening, again, in my own backyard. Like you said, where can I affect change? And change happens in my life, in other people's lives, closest to you. And so find something. And I guarantee you that if you own 4 properties or more in the neighborhood, in your community, in your hometown, you'd probably be paying a lot closer attention to this kind of stuff because it would affect you directly in that way, right?
I agree 100%. And it can be about ownership. But there's a different age and stage for everybody. Maybe you're at an age or stage where you're not ready to go out and pick up another 3, 4, 5 properties. I respect that. I understand it. So for you, it's a matter of what? What can you do on this quest? What can you do? Who can you impact? What stories can you tell younger generations? How can you influence and impact and inspire the people right where you are to harken back to why did your community even become founded? What did it used to be like? What can you help celebrate? We've sold the heart and soul of America's manufacturing to China. We've given it to them, not by force, but by choice. We have chosen cheap crap. We have chosen to offshore even much of our, what did we learn during COVID? How much of our pharmaceuticals are manufactured at in China, one of the greatest threats to our democracy that exists. Of course, I still think we are our own greatest threat. However, if we're looking externally, one of our greatest threats to our way of life is holding the keys to our health. Why we need to encourage compounding pharmacies where we are. We need a compounding pharmacy in every community so that should there be some other pandemic, should there be some other threat, you do not have to seek out ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine in some back alley pharmaceutical avenue coming from India or wherever. We need to own and control these things right where we are. So no matter what age or stage you're at, your bag should be packed, but then unpacked because the quest starts right here. You don't need to go anywhere. You could start it right here.
So what do you recommend to people in in their attempt to discover their quest, right? I mean, again, this is every week I'm asking you to break it down for the stupid people like me in the back who are going like, okay, what do you mean, man? It's pretty words, but what do you mean? So how do we figure out what our quest is? I mean, what do we do?
I submit to you, Michael, that you already know it. I think that we each have a tuning fork in our heart and soul, and we know it when it's a little bit like flag over the target, whatever you analogy you want to use. You know it. You know when you're there, and it's a matter of just tuning in and saying, "Okay, I accept." I have the feeling that something's already triggered in your mind in this short conversation. That's like, you know what? I am going to do it. I'm going to do it right here. You know, you could go through an exercise of meditation and long thought and procrastination, or you could simply answer the call that's already in your heart, because I submit to you that it's probably already there. And it's just a matter of saying, yes, I'll do it. I'll pick up the mantle. I'm going to go. I'm going to take this on today. I'm not going to let grass grow. I'm going to simply make a move today and start it. It could be as simple as saying, I'm going to commit myself to find out when the next planning and zoning meeting is, and I'm going to schedule it and go. Council meeting, assembly meeting, whatever it is, I'm going to pay attention, plug in, and I'm going to show up. And it could be that simple. It could be I am going to go and get pre-qualified and see what I can afford to purchase or how I can make this next purchase. It could be any of these things. It doesn't have to be involving real estate. That just happens to be in my heart and mind. Where, see, I said the other day on my show, in America, we hold the power of America in our deeds. Whoever owns the deeds of America, the most deeds, is going to win. So is that going to be a foreign interest? Is it going to be Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street? Are we going to turn America's property over to corporatocracy? Are we going to turn it all over to these giant mega corporations that do not have your best interest at heart? Or are you going to own most and more of America? And that's what I suggest. But it doesn't have to be that. Could be a journal. You could write a letter to the editor. Greg Sarber, whom I've talked about here, was writing letters to the editor until the editor of the Homer News said, nah, we don't like your voice anymore. He started his own Substack. He started his own newsletter.
Right.
What can you do?
Well, I mean, it's a nice, you neatly wrap this up into your own personal philosophy of the backyard millionaire, helping create millionaires around the country and around the state, getting 4 properties. That could be your quest, or just having your voice be heard. Chris Story, the man from Homer, I love HomerAlaska.com is his website. You can go there and get all the information, including his books, The Backyard Millionaire, Born to Live, and his latest book, The Watchman, which is in the Jacob Mann series, also available on audible.com, read by yours truly. So, fun stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Chris, thanks so much. Hold the line for just a second. Thanks for coming in this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. My pleasure.
Hold the line. Folks, we'll be back with more Hour 2 dead ahead. Mike Shower and more, all coming up. The Michael Duke Show. I'm really, I got to be honest with you. When I read The Backyard Millionaire and I read it, I read the book first and then I go through and then I perform it when I did the audiobook. That book really resonated with me. Now, unfortunately, it resonated with me, but I have not, we've talked about this, I have not taken action on it yet. And I've been thinking about it the last week or so. I've been thinking about, I really need to take action on the things that you said and the ideas that you presented, because I thought they were excellent and really had some merit. And this has kind of spurred me on. What is my quest now? Maybe my quest is to go get pre-qualified or to figure out what I can afford or what I should do. This is I think this is a good opportunity to do it. Remind people real quick about the thesis behind your philosophy of the millionaire maker and what people should do in that regard.
Is first accepting that you can. It's not a must have to, if you can. Anybody. This is available to anybody. One of my great mentors who became the namesake in the book, The Backyard Millionaire, his name was Oscar, who is actually the character himself, the protagonist, is actually just an amalgamation of a lot of people, including my dad, and Oscar, this guy that I'd met. And I'll use Oscar for this example. He was 55 years old. He worked in a shipyard, and he built a vacation home for him and his wife on the coast below Tacoma where they lived. And he's like, so not just can he build ships, but he goes, I could build a house. Interesting. A friend found out he had done that and said, hey, I got a little lot down the shore. Would you build me a vacation house down there? He said, sure. And then he looked at my wife and I, and he was 85 years old at that time, but he had big, bright eyes. And he said, hey, Chris, They haven't caught me since. And during that 30-year period of time, he built a massive fortune. You don't have to. I'm using him as an example. He built a massive fortune with over 1,500 apartment rentals. He had a chain of motels. He had restaurants. He had a huge building in Tacoma where he lived in the penthouse above, surveying all that he owned there. I mean, it was such a gem of an idea that, wait a minute, he didn't travel. He didn't go anywhere. He just anchored in where he was and said, I am now going to build. I'm going to build something. And in that 30 years, he built a fortune. And he always had this resonance about, I'm not done yet. And he would talk about his age a little bit and go, I've still got so much more to do. And I'm thinking, you're 85. You built a fort. No, he was still on his quest. It took him to Alaska as a place to vacation, and that's how I met him. But he really was building something right where he was. So that's what makes me think, okay, it's never too late. No matter what it is. Maybe you don't want that big of a fortune, but it's never too late for you. But you got to get started.
Man, I wouldn't turn down that big of a fortune. I will tell you that right now. If I could free myself up to do the things that I really loved, that would definitely be a plus. You know, I'd never do that. And that starts with what you said it before. Your goal is to turn people into millionaires.
Yep.
You know, as many people as you can, and it all starts with, you know, 3 or 4 properties in your area, right? I mean, that's what you do, right in your own backyard.
Exactly. My goal is 2,000 millionaires every 2 years. And essentially that just means I have to constantly be talking about it. I have to constantly be telling people, you can, so can you, so can you. If I can do this, you can do it. And one day I just looked around and I was like, wait a minute, this is now, mind you, this is almost 20 years ago. Average price of a home was between 2 and 250,000. If somebody owned 4 of these, all you'd have to do is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, millionaire. Now it's, well, 2 homes really, and but I still say 4 because you want the passive income. It isn't just about accumulating the assets and accumulating the
net worth,
the money and the capital and your net worth. It's about the income going forward. That's the prosperity piece of it. According to Buckminster Fuller, that's the amount of money you have coming in going forward without having to work for it. So that passive income, in addition to having equity, in addition to having a large asset to hand off if you wish to family when you're gone and leave a legacy. But it's also about that income. So cash flow is a big piece of what we talk about. But it all starts right here. It's a quest of epic proportions, but in your own backyard. And it just starts with a phone call. Maybe at the end of this conversation, somebody says, you know what? I'm going to schedule that pre-qualification. I'm going to find out what I can do. And I'm going to take that first step, even if it's 2 years from now before you can actually affect it. Start today. Otherwise, you're just kicking it down the road in 2 years. And
you have a little pamphlet that kind of outlines the first steps in becoming a backyard millionaire, right? It's the Millionaire Maker. Is that what
6 practical steps to your first 4 homes. And I love giving it away. If anybody wants it, just text the word maker at 907-299-7653 and I'll email it or text it to you. It's about 35 pages, quick read.
907-299. What is the last one?
7653. Spelled sold, by the way.
7653. Okay. Sorry, my computer was lagging horribly, and so I missed that. Okay. I posted his number up in the chat room. Just text the word maker to that, and he will send you a PDF of his little pamphlet on how to become the backyard millionaire, how to do it, how to start your journey. And even if being a millionaire is not your thing, at least having some of that passive income and being able to pass something on to your kids, definitely unusual in this day and age. It seems like the only thing we're passing on to our kids these days is the debt we've accumulated when it's all said and done. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Michael. It's a great opportunity.
It's good to hear from you, friend. All right. Thank you so much. All right, my friends, we have got more coming up. We're about to jump back into it here with hour 2. Mike Shower should be joining us, and we'll be talking with him. Meanwhile, I'm going to reset the stream at the top of the hour again during the theme song because it's obviously dragging audio. Terry just said the audio is dragging as well. So I don't know. Things are a little slow right now, but we're going to get back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Text that number if you want to get that booklet. It's a good booklet to get. All right, back with more right after this.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael
It's time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, welcome to hour 2 of the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to it. Hump Day edition of the show. Wednesday, downhill slide. We can see Firearms Friday from here. Coming up on tomorrow's program, we're going to be joined by Nick Begich III, who's running for U.S. House, and we'll be talking with him about his candidacy and some of the national issues that we may be able to have an effect on. Like I said, normally we don't have much of an effect. This might be one of them, though, as we go through. So Nick Begich is going to be joining us tomorrow in hour 2 of the show. Still working on guests for hour 1. I've got some ideas, but we don't have anything solidified quite yet. Coming up on today's program here in this second hour of the show, we're going to be joined in just a few minutes by State Senator Mike Shower, who should be landing as we speak on the tarmac in Anchorage from his day job flying for FedEx, and he's supposed to be calling us and talking with us on the way home about all the various things that are on his mind this week, including discussions on why shouldn't we just the Kathy Giesel opinion piece keeps coming back to me that we talked about with Brad yesterday. It just keeps coming back to me over and over and over again. The hypocrisy of somebody saying we really need to expand the food stamps program and we really need to do all this because it's our job to protect Alaskans and do all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, she's A-okay with taking the PFD, 100% taking the PFD and doing that. I mean, not realizing that that would go further in making sure that more Alaskans stay fed and healthy than anything else. So we'll talk about that with Mike Shower this morning. As well, and we'll continue on. Let me talk a little bit about this story before Mike calls in here this morning. We were talking about this on Monday. We had David Boyle on talking about they're having that big Alaska COVID Alliance Fall Conference over on the 13th and the 14th of October at the Mountain City Church, and and I was saying at the time that I just don't think people will be as complicit as they were in the last. Like if they start calling for shutdowns and COVID spikes up a little bit or whatever, I just don't think people are going to comply the way that they used to, and especially with the mandates, especially after some of the lawsuits that have come out of some of these mandates and some of the things that have gone on there. But I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. It's information is coming out now from Providence Health Services, which of course is the local hospital down here in South Central in Anchorage. It's a Catholic healthcare organization, and Must Read Alaska's got the story up about it. Suzanne Downing writes about it. The information that's coming out of Providence is confusing at best when it comes to the new COVID vaccine and Providence's workforce. The workers at Providence reportedly received a memo this week. The memo posted by users on X or Twitter. The memo advised them of an updated COVID vaccination policy, saying that those who don't want to take the vaccination could be fired. This memo allegedly has been received by Providence workers in other states. All the caregivers need to they need to have the newest vaccine for COVID and provide proof of vaccination to the company by November 30. that they have taken the shot. And here's a quote from the memo. The caregivers who do not obtain a COVID-19 vaccine or decline by November 30th may be removed from the schedule, placed on unpaid leave, or may be subject to termination for continued noncompliance with their facility policy. The memo says that the company is developing a tool for providing proof of vaccination or submitting a declination. Now, some of those who posted the memo online said that they heard back later from Providence's PR team, which said, whoa, the shots are not mandatory at all. Wait, you just said right here, you may be removed from the schedule, placed on unpaid leave, and may be subject to termination. That kind of sounds mandatory. According to the Gateway Pundit, which quoted a Providence spokesperson, they said this is not the same as the vaccine mandates that were required to be implemented by state law and CMS during the pandemic. Caregivers can choose to decline the vaccine. Those who do not wish to receive it simply need to submit a declination form by November 30, rather. They no longer need to request approval for medical or religious exemptions, as many states and CMS required at the height of the COVID. It's Catholic Medical Services. A declination will be automatically accepted. They do not need to be approved. They were like, really? They were like, really? Oh, no, well, wait a second. Because I'm sure the backlash on something like that has got to be pretty huge. Where, I mean, people have come to the point of like, look, this is endemic. It's no longer pandemic. It's going to be here. Do we need to have that? You're, mandating vaccines and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, no, that's not what we said. That's not what we meant. And yet the Providence's website, the company makes it clear that shots are mandatory, according to the Providence website. The caregiver vaccination policy, quote, aims to prevent and control the spread of COVID transmission to workforce members, our vulnerable patient population, and the community. The policy applies to all workforce members, including employees, caregivers, volunteers, trainees, interns, medical staff, students, independent contractors, vendors, and all other individuals working in the facility. So my question is, because I personally know two people, and anecdotally I've heard of another dozen people who basically quit their job in the medical industry when they were faced with the choice of you either have to get vaccinated or lose your job. And like I said, I know of two people who just said no and left. And now, of course, that whole time they were crying about the shortage of workers. And I'm thinking, these guys worked without a vaccine for like 18 months. And everything was going fine. And now you're going to mandate it. They're already on burnout because they've been working so hard over the last 18 months without a vaccine. And now you're going to force a bunch more out? Does that even make any sense whatsoever? But you could see here how this whole thing may change, because while they put that memo out, which clearly states that if you don't get the shot, you could get fired. And then we're like, whoa, that's not what we meant. What we meant was something completely different. Even though that's what the memo says, we meant. I think I still stand by what I said on Monday, which is I think people are going to be like, dude, I'm not going to fall for that again. I know plenty of people. I have not been vaccinated. I've had COVID once, right? And again, this is just anecdotal. This is my observation. But then I have met other people or people that I work with that did get vaccinated, and most of them have had it multiple times. So how is this I didn't get vaccinated. I've had it once the whole time. And it was like a day and a half, 2 days, and then I was back to it. Lost my sense of taste for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. But other than that, it was fine. And yet all these people around me who were just, in fear, dying to get the shot because they were in total fear, and they've had it 2, 3, 4 times. So tell me again how this is supposed to help me. And tell me again about all the stuff that you were pandering and peddling during the heat of the pandemic that made everybody fearful. And that's why we shut down businesses and those. I think if there is some kind of spike, and which again, it won't just be cold and flu season anymore, right? It'll be cold, flu, and COVID season. It's going to be cyclic, just like the flu is. But if you get to that point where all of a sudden you're going to start saying, well, now we need to shut, I just don't think people are going to pay attention to that shutdown. I just don't think, I know communities won't, certain communities won't. You know, probably the KPB, probably the Matsu wouldn't do it. Now, maybe Anchorage would get all a flutter about it, but I just don't see people standing for it again. The first time it was an unknown. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of things going on. People were afraid they were going to die. I mean, it was a whole thing. But I think now that they've seen it, now that they've seen that, you know, yes, there are people who died from COVID. That COVID is and can be a horrific virus that, you know, if you're affected, it's a tough thing. But at the same time, same thing happens for other. You can't shut the whole world down on the potentiality that that's going to be as bad as, I mean, the shutdown was more detrimental in the long run to the economy, to the people, to mental health, to education. We could just go through the list of things that it was bad on over that course of time. I just don't see it. I just don't see it continuing. I don't see it getting any traction amongst people who went through that the first time. That's just my take. But again, big organizations like this, like Providence, and of course, sending the mixed messages is not helping anything. Oh, you must get the show. Well, we didn't really mean that, but you still say it on your website. But we really didn't mean it. Okay, well, what is it? What is it exactly that you know? Anyway, there's a whole story here as well. I didn't have time to get to this story. It's a story in the Alaska Beacon from Claire Stremple, talking about as Alaska works through its post-pandemic Medicaid renewals, only about a third of people stay covered. Now, a third of people in the state, only about a third, which means that during the pandemic, there, because it used to be, and that was a number that actually popped up under Bill Walker when the last year that he was governor, showed that about a third of Alaskans were on Medicare, on some kind of welfare driven or, you know, income driven thing for Medicare, because they'd expanded, or Medicaid, because they'd expanded Medicaid out in all these different things. Tons of people could get on it. But the Beacon is lamenting the fact that only about a third of Alaskans are staying covered on Medicaid, to which I was like, what? I mean, that's the downside. Only a third of Alaskans are staying covered, according to the renewals dashboard, which is available over at alaska.gov. So they had 200, and as of August 31st, they had 254,000 Alaskans are on Medicaid. 254,000 out of 740,000 Alaskans, whatever the new number is. 1/3 of Alaskans are still on Medicaid. This story, though, goes on to talk about how part of the problem is that there's these paperwork problems and all these other issues and things going on. And there's this interesting blurb right in the middle of it where it talks about the one thing, which is the process. They follow this one person through the process of Medicaid. And I look at this and I read this little blurb, and all I could think of is, and you trust the government to do anything at this point? They're the solution to your healthcare. They're the solution. So here's, let me just read this real quick before we go to break. So they're talking about an individual named Barnes, what's her name? Barnes, Brandy Barnes. They're talking about Brandy Barnes. This says the process is difficult for the state to navigate, but also for individuals like Brandy Barnes. After she got the notice that she may lose her care, her Medicaid care, she tried to contact the new caseworker because she'd been told she had a new caseworker. After weeks of attempts, she said she got another notice that her son may lose coverage, another notice of the same thing. This time she went to the Division of Public Assistance office and worked with an employee to get all of her paperwork filed. They were unable to contact her case manager. She's got a new one. She tried to reach him for weeks. She finally goes down to the office, works through everything. Then she got another letter. It said the state hadn't received her paperwork and her son would lose coverage. This is after she sat in the office with a worker and did it all. An advocate helped her to turn the paperwork in again. She was notified that her caseworker no longer worked for the state. Then she got a ton of backdated paperwork in the mail, all of it weeks out of date, Some of it was up to a year out of date. One letter was a notification that she had a new caseworker, one that had already left, that had come and gone. She didn't even know it. Another said her paperwork didn't come in, she'd be denied. Another said she was missing part of her paperwork and would be denied. This is government efficiency at its best. She's turned in this whole story throughout this whole article. She turned in all the paperwork like 4 or 5 times, and including going down to the office, never being contacted by her caseworker, never being able to get a hold of it. And this is the kind of coverage you want? I mean, I'm not a fan of this whole 1/3 of Alaskans on Medicaid thing, but at the same time, this is an example of what you would get if you were covered. This is the kind of bureaucratic hoop jumping and this is what you want? I just, the whole thing just absolutely blows my mind that this is somehow acceptable. All right. Anyway, we got to go. Mike Shower should be calling in here in a minute. We'll be hearing from him here. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Weird thought. Where do commercial pilots park at the airport? I'm assuming at the FedEx terminal. Or that for Mike specifically. I think you need to bite the bullet and switch to Starlink. I've got a Starlink unit that I've been paying for, but I have not got it all tied in because, again, it still drops and lags sometimes. I've been checking in with people who live around me who have Starlink friends and seeing how it's doing. I'm eventually going to switch over to it. I just haven't as of yet. Good morning, Eskimo Libertarian. I saw you earlier. Congratulations, by the way, on the bouncing baby. Let's see. Mandating vaccines is a power play, says Jeannie. Yeah. I agree. The same Providence administrators that swayed stopped Sarah Vance's No One Dies Alone bill while in the hospital. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fear is the leverage. It's the beginning of medical tyranny, said Jeannie. Yeah. Randy, I agree with you. Randy said, I've never gotten the COVID vaccine. I would quit my job before submitting to a mandated vax, but I'm not anti-vax. I think it's fine for anybody who voluntarily. I agree. If you want to get it, more power to you. I told that to all my friends. They were like, well, you're just going to be anti. I'm like, no, if you want to get it, fine. Absolutely get it. If it makes you feel safer, if you think it's going to work for you, great. There you go. Just don't force me to do it. To move, they required a jabby jab. Okay, don't get another one. Let's see. The new information about the next. This is okay. What's this? The new information about this next vax is shocking. It's using the Delta spike mRNA, and the vaccine will keep your cells from recognizing the new variant and literally be useless. Get this, they used a cohort of 774 people. Oh. That's that. Military TRICARE. Let's see. With the military TRICARE, you have to go into Medicare at 65. Oof. One department can't return to work over what's this? One health and social services department can't return to work because someone let the lease expire. What? I learned that nugget after sitting on the phone for 5 hours waiting to ask a question to determine to talk to a human being. Wow. Wow. You did not take my. Did EL take your suggestion about the middle name? And Eskimo Libertarian did not. I'm hurt. I'm absolutely hurt. I'm just hurt at this point. Okay. I look at that. I got through all the comments today. And Mr. Folgers seemed to have stepped away, which interesting. Okay. What should we do? Wait for Mike to call in. He should be here any minute, unless he got delayed. Over here. Close that. Close that. Okay. All right. Well, we are all ready. I don't care who gets the jab or who walks around with a face taper on if it makes them feel better. Just don't start acting like some self-appointed COVID special forces officer. It's not even a special forces officer. It's more like a political officer, right? What do they call the commissars in the used to be embedded with the Soviet military units? Remember, they have the political officers. Can't remember. I guess that political officer, I guess, is the thing, but that's what it felt like. You know, they've appointed themselves to tell you how you are wrong and how you're going against it and how you're killing people. My wife actually had somebody come up to her at the store one time, get in her face about that. She wasn't wearing a mask and this lady was. And my wife's like, you're like in my bubble. You're real close to me. Am I supposed to cough on you or what? Oh, she got indignant. All right. I don't understand people. I just don't understand. You know, it's not like people. I think sometimes they've turned being angry into a sport these days. Being outraged is a sport that we're all watching and participating in. It's crazy. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this thing. Here we go. Okay, well, welcome back to the program. It's another beautiful Wednesday. Little heavy rain, 43 degrees. My thing just flashed up on my screen. 43 degrees and heavy rain. Okay. It's another beautiful day here in paradise. Another beautiful. And these guys who are in the chat room are all talking about drinking heavily today. What? I mean, come on, guys. It's not that bad. Although I will say this. I mean, if it seems like somebody, it seems like everybody these days, not somebody, but it seems like a bunch of people have turned being outraged into a sport. I was just talking about this at the end of the break, commercial break before we came back. Is it me? Is it me, or are you seeing that? I will say, you want to know what a little guilty pleasure is occasionally? There will be a video on the internet of like Karens getting served, right? I mean, Karens, you know, the person who's that constant complainer and I want to speak to your manager and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that skewed my view a little bit, but sometimes people, for the craziest reason, they just want to be outraged. It seems like it's almost a sport at this point. And that I don't know why. I don't know why people would want to be outraged about things. I don't know why people can't let stuff roll off their shoulders. Some of the things that people get outraged about, you can see on the internet. There are whole YouTube channels dedicated to Karens getting served. And by served, I mean they're not being served drinks. I mean getting their comeuppance. And I just think, how is there so much fodder material for these channels? I mean, are people really this outraged all the time over every little thing? I mean, why, to quote the great philosopher Rodney King, can't we all just get along? Can't we all just get along? Why? Why do people get so and up in your business about things that have nothing to do with them? We were talking during the break about the COVID thing and masks and the reaction that some people had on that. And it's an astonishing thing. But I think people just for some reason want to be outraged. I think they feel vindicated when they're out. And I don't understand it. I personally don't. I believe this is Mr. Shower. Let's go over to the phones. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, Mike.
No.
Okay. Somebody has called my cell phone. I'm live on the air. We'll have to talk. You'll have to call me back later. I'm waiting for Mike to call me. So we'll go there. You have to call me back later. All right. So Richard says he thinks it gives them something to feel important. It gives them something to feel important about. I don't understand that idea of walking up to somebody, and especially the Karens who go to somebody who's working a counter at some, fast food restaurant or something, and you got this worker that's making $12 an hour, and you're going to start screeching at them at the top of your voice because they put ketchup on your burger when you didn't order it, even though that's what it comes with, or, whatever else the problem may be. I just don't understand that whole mindset. I just can't wrap my brain. And I guess that's good that we do it. But I mean, has it been the rise of the Karens? And for those of you who are named Karen out there, I apologize, but I'm using it as a pejorative, kind of a cultural pejorative for anybody who I want to know, was the first person who actually did this really named Karen? That's my question. I feel bad for the Karens of the world if that's the case. But it really is a kind of a horrific thing. It's like a train wreck. When I watch these videos, and there are videos that are 20 minutes long of one session after another of people being caught on tape doing the most ridiculous things, and being outraged over literally nothing, that I just wonder what has happened with the art of discourse, right? The ability to have a conversation, even if we don't agree with somebody, the ability to have a polite conversation without, this whole blowing things up and wanting to kill each other. Civility. Thank you, Terry. Civility. That's what I was looking for. There was the whole thing of the triumvirate, right? The Socratic method of logic, rhetoric, and reason, which we don't even teach that anymore. They didn't even teach that when I was in high school. I had to read about that and learn about that on my own. But I mean, it's where is the rhetoric? Where is the ability to have a conversation and agree to disagree, to argue your point without being combative, without tearing somebody down? I mean, where is the civility? No, not the senility, Brian. The civility. Where is this senility? I can't remember. Anyway, Melody says, I watch those Karen and Darren videos. They are hilarious. I mean, they really are. It's sometimes it's really cringe inducing to watch people do this. But, I just, this topic was not something I was planning on jumping into, but we just got to talking about it at the end of the break. And I'm just like, how, and it's like the whole thing about the COVID thing, right? It was the fear that was driving it. And you saw videos of people. And here's the thing that got me was that people who are on both sides of the debate, people who would be videotaped in grocery stores screaming at people for wearing masks and saying that they're sheep and that they should do it. And all I'm like is just leave them be. If they want to wear a mask, fine. If you don't want to wear one, fine. That's my point. My whole point was, I don't care it doesn't affect me what you do. If you want to wear a mask, great. If you want to get vaccinated, that's fantastic. I support that 100%. Just don't go around and force me to do all the things that you want to do. And so we saw it from both sides, right? And people bumping up, and that was the thing. I was telling the story about my wife got stopped in Fred Meyer. This is probably 6-8 months into the pandemic. And she was at Fred Meyer's doing some grocery shopping. She didn't have her mask. And she said, this woman came right up to me, right in my face, and said, you're killing me. You're trying to kill us. You're not wearing a mask. And my wife's like, you are in my space. Am I supposed to cough on you or something to get you to go away? Oh, that's just out. She was just outraged that you are in their personal bubble. Is that the civility that we're looking for? I mean, and I think it really is the divide and conquer kind of mentality. We want to be outraged. We want to create the them, right? It's us and them, and the them needs to be destroyed. If you don't believe the same way that I believe, then you absolutely need to be utterly destroyed. And that's a problem for both the left and the right, is that if they don't believe, those commie libtards, they should all die. No, they shouldn't. They should have the ability to believe what they want to believe, just as long as they're not forcing me to go along with it. Why did we get so combative in that regard? Why are we, live and let live. Live and let live. Don't hurt anybody. Don't take their stuff. Do what you want to do as long as it doesn't violate anybody else's rights or interfere with their lives. That's what we should be doing. That's what we should be living for. Not this idea that everybody has to live exactly how I live or they're evil and they're wrong. But that's what we're facing today. We're facing absolutes. There is no gray area. There is no compromise in the middle. There is no finding any kind of middle ground. I have known many people who I completely disagree with philosophically, but we found joy in talking about things like art and movies and other things, and we're able to find that common ground. And you miss all that when all you do is look at them and see the Pelosi sticker on their car and go, oh, they're evil. We must, we just must. Why? We disagree, and maybe we can try and sway them with logical arguments, with rhetoric and reason. But why should we look at them and say they are the enemy and they are evil? They are not. They just believe something differently from you. Are there evil people in the world? Yes, Michael, there are evil people in the world. But I'm talking about in generalities. Just because they disagree with your philosophy, philosophically, does not mean that they are evil and that they should be destroyed. But that happens on both the left and the right. You're killing us with your hate speech or whatever. Anyway, I didn't mean to get on that rant, but it's something that really burdens my soul. And like I said, I don't know if I'm just totally skewed because I've watched all these videos and I find a weird, not satisfaction in it, but it's like a morbid fascination of watching these videos of these Karens going on and on about things that are just like, really? I mean, you're so worked up and you're screaming. And then half the time, depending on what you're watching, half the time it turns into some kind of racist, philosophical, religious rant or something for half the. I'm just like, wow, you people are just embarrassing yourselves. You can't even. Again, bring civility back. Bring civility back. Make civility great again. That's what I'm saying. Those are the people that watch Fox News. It's everywhere. It's not just Fox News. I would guarantee you that there's a ton of NPR listeners in that batch of Karens as well. NPRs and Fox and whatever. It's just, we just cannot. Can we all just get along? I mean, wow. All right. We're coming up on the break. We haven't heard from Mike Shower yet. Apparently he hasn't hit the ground. That's not the right way to say that when you're talking about a pilot. He has not landed. Sometimes Dukes, just your word choice is just so, I know I'm sorry. Apologizing to myself. Okay. We're coming up on the break. Oh God. All right. We're going to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Karen-free radio. We'll be back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I know. Somebody was calling about that. Apparently they were calling about the gun show. I'm still live right now, so I'm still talking about it. Okay. Let's continue on here. Circling Mike. He may be circling the field. I mean, who knows? It's raining heavy. It could be any number of things. And he just, he told me, he told me last week, he goes, I'm scheduled to hit the ground at like 7:05, whatever. And he goes, so I probably could be with you about 7:10. If it's late, it could be a little bit later, but it'll be what it is. And so I don't think he may not make it this morning. He may not make it this morning. Oh, you should watch some of those Karen videos. It almost makes me feel good about myself and how I handle people but I got to tell you, I got kids that are out there working in the workforce, right? Young adults, late teens, early 20s, and they are out there working, and they come back with some of the most horrendous stories about people who come in there and just fly off the hand. My girls have come home someday in tears because somebody yelled at them about something that was totally beyond their control as a cashier. I mean, you're a cashier making $12 or $13 an hour, and this person comes in and you can't honor a coupon because the system won't allow you to honor it because it's out of date, or whatever I don't even remember some of the situations, but they are just like yelling and screaming and losing their minds and the entitlement of all this stuff. And they reduce people to tears. And I'm like, who does that? Who does that? That's why I like to watch the ones that are Karens getting served. Karens who get their just desserts. That's what the one where the police show up later and arrest him and like, no, you're the problem, sweetheart. Those are my favorite ones. The ones where they're just running rampant kind of exhaust me, but the ones where they're getting served, I like those because they're like, this is what happens. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You do stupid things, you call, mean people. Only a-holes do that, says Justin. That's the thing. Who does that to a 19-year-old little girl, 19-year-old girl at a counter, and some big guy is in there swearing at you because you didn't give him his whatever the thing is. Now, first of all, my question always is to the management is, why don't you walk out there and go, you can leave and never come back? That's the thing. There are plenty of people in this world, and we don't need you here. That's always my question when I see something like that happen. Is you can leave and never come back, and if you're not gone in the next 30 seconds, I'm calling the cops, and they will escort you and trespass you out of here. Where is that? It does happen in some of those videos, which I love. But why isn't that happening? I was with my daughter. I said, what did the manager do? Well, nothing. Why? Why would you allow your employees to be treated like that? Why would you? Oh, God. I don't know how we got on this topic, but it's a pet peeve of mine. About 5 years ago, somebody started screaming at something, and I just looked at them, and I was like, anyway, I turned to them and I said, hey, they're like, what? And I said, why don't you just shut your pie hole and leave? I have no patience for your stuff right now. Just why don't you just shut your pie hole and leave? And I'm a pretty big guy, so maybe I intimidated them. Maybe that's bad on my part for doing that, but I was glowering and I was like, I have got no patience for your nonsense. My old boss fired a customer, and that was the right thing to do because he got belligerent. Yes, I mean, how you are rewarding the behavior. See, everybody became so afraid of the litigious nature of our society and the ramifications of, oh my God, they could sue us. By rewarding that behavior, you are just encouraging more of it to happen, right? You are just encouraging more of it to happen by not addressing it, by allowing it to go through. It is just insane that it's insane that as a society that we would actually put up with that from people, that behavior is not called out and ridiculed by everyone. Every one of us should be ready. And you know what? And they should be like, you're blacklisted, never come back. And they keep doing that at other places, and pretty soon they won't have any place to go. Wow. All right. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's get to it. Okay. Well, one final segment. I don't have much hope that Mike Shower is going to be joining us here because he must have gotten delayed. He's probably in flight somewhere doing that thing. But I do have the phone lines open. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. This is kind of one of those organic days where kind of a topic comes up and it just consumes my mind. And, kind of talking about that lack of civility. Does anybody else out there have a story of, especially if you have children or young adults in your life who are working in customer service and like retail and things like that? One of my daughters is like, yeah, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go apply for a job there because I have a friend that works there. And they said that they are just treated by the public like crap and the management does nothing. And so, if I'm interested to see if you have stories about that. Is it just me? Is my perspective skewed because I love watching Karen videos on YouTube sometimes, especially the ones where they get their just desserts? Like I'm a Karen and I'm going to scream and shout about all this. And then I'm going to call the cops. And oh, by the way, the cops haul me away because I'm the one that's causing the problem. Is that the, am I the problem on that regard? I don't know, because again, as a business owner, I would, the first thing I would do, because your employees are one of your most valuable resources, right? And you want to protect your employees, you would be like, I'm sorry, madam or sir, or whoever you are, you can leave. You can leave and never come back because my employees don't deserve to be treated that way. And yet a lot of these big corporate structures, they don't allow for that. My daughter worked for a national chain store, and they would come in and she'd come home in tears, and she said he was yelling at me about a coupon that is expired and how I should honor it and giving me all these reasons. And I'm like, my system will not take it, sir. I cannot do it. And he starts screaming and yelling and ranting and, throwing things. And I'm like, and the manager did nothing. I mean, that's the answer. It's permissiveness is what it is. It's because everybody got so afraid that their company is going to look bad in the PR or be sued or whatever. And now your employees leave and don't ever want to come back into that industry, because why? I mean, as business owners, if some of your business owners out there, wouldn't you have been like, I'm sorry, please step outside, or I'm calling the police and you'll be trespassed. We will 86 you out of here forever. You do that a few times to some of those people who are like that, and and pretty soon they'll have no place to go to be Karens, and that'll fix that problem right up. They can yell at themselves in the mirror. Anyway, weird topic, but it came up, and I am totally just amazed how people feel entitled to act that way and like it's okay. Like, where were your parents? My dad would have smacked me through the back of the car if I'd acted that way. Not really. My dad was not that way. But you know what I mean? I would have gotten a stern talking to, and maybe a whooping. All right. Let's go back over to the phones and see what you guys have to say, or go to the phones, I guess, for the first time today, and see what's on your mind. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Randy in Fairbanks.
Good morning, Randy. What's on your mind?
Well, I agree with you what you're saying about being civil when you're talking to somebody, even someone who you disagree with politically or who's on the left or vice versa or whatever. I know that I was talking to a left-leaning lady who was a city council member back in 2019 named Shoshana Kuhn, and I think she's a nice lady because I was talking to her in the city council chambers in 2019 during recess when they were discussing the ordinance 6093, which is a massive authoritarian, freedom-robbing, anti-discrimination ordinance that attacks the private sector, in my view. But nonetheless, I was talking civil with her, and she was talking nice with me, and so I still think she's a nice person.
Right.
But she's running again for city council. She was on the city, and she's running again, and I fear her getting on the council. I wish her well in other endeavors, whatever she wants to do, but I just don't want to see her elected to the Fairbanks City Council, because if you ever got 4 like-minded people on that 6-member council, they could pass an ordinance like 6093 again and take away our freedoms. And it did pass. She who voted for it did pass it at the time in 2019, but fortunately, the heroic mayor that we had at the time, Jim Matherly, he vetoed it and saved Fairbanks, which was a tremendous relief to me.
Right.
But anyway, so I would recommend that just 2 people up for vote for election right now for the city council, and those are incumbents, Lonnie Marnie and John Ringstad, and I sure hope people get out for the October 3rd election and vote for those 2 people. But the main focus of this 6093, as I've talked to you about of course, several times, but was the LGBT thing. But the fact is, it had a whole smorgasbord of categories.
It was a problem. It was definitely
the city statutes there.
Yeah, it was definitely a problem for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But I agree with you, Randy. I mean, you could be friendly with people. I'm friendly and acquainted with people that I would never vote for. Doesn't mean that I can't be polite. Doesn't mean that we can't have conversations about things. Doesn't mean we can't even debate things civilly. But we should not be yelling and screaming and cursing at each other and, basically wishing the other person dead, which I think is some of the reactions, some of the more wild reactions you get on those kind of discussions. Randy, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Elena, and I'm calling from Anchor Point.
Hello.
How you doing, Michael?
Good, Elena. What's on your mind this morning?
Well, I heard you talking about, your daughter working in the national chain and how she was treated, and couple of things. My dad, back when he ran a restaurant down in Texas, he had somebody that they just let their child run loose and run all over the place. And he went to ask her, can you please calm your child? Oh, we don't believe in discipline. He said, then you need to leave. And she goes, well, you can't do that. Yes, I can. I'm the owner, and thank you. And the whole restaurant, because it was lunchtime, stood up and clapped.
Yeah.
And agreed with him.
Exactly.
And it was just, kind of funny because we hear it more and more, but it's been happening for the longest time. And then my son, I had twin boys, and when one of them was still living down south before he moved up here, he worked at a national fast food chain in the drive-thru. And he, like you said, these kids are earning, whatever they're earning an hour, $12, $13, $15 an hour. And they get treated like trash. But he was fortunate enough to have a manager and the owner of this franchise that he was working for stand up for their employees.
That's
but
good.
When he moved up here, I said, this place is higher. And he goes, I will never work in fast food again.
Right.
Ever.
Well, that's what one of my daughters
Yeah.
did. She worked in fast food for a while, and she's like, I will never do that again. She goes, the people who worked there were great and everything else, but the way we were treated, no, I won't do that. And I'm like, who treats fast food workers poorly? These are like the lowest. I mean, these are minimum wage young kids. Who does that?
I know. And it's just, you have adults who should know better, and they're acting like toddlers. I ran a home daycare when I was living down in the lower 48, and my daycare kids, as well as my own, behaved better than some of these kids. But
some of these adults, yeah.
The civility is a big issue, like others have said, and I think it's the heart too. They just have lost focus on what's important and how to treat people decently, because Abraham Lincoln, he said, a house divided will fall. And I think we really started seeing all of this happen when, when Russia was dissolved, when we started not having to worry like we did back in the Cold War, or we didn't have something to focus on. So everyone is trying to grab at the tiniest little thing.
So something external, we don't have an external thing to focus on. Now we're just looking at each other internally. And then the divisiveness is definitely not helping us either on that. I agree with you. I really do. And it's frustrating. It's one of my pet peeves. But like I said, it's one of the reasons why my guilty pleasure is watching a Karen get served on a video somewhere for being a Karen, getting ousted, getting told to leave, getting arrested by the police. I've seen it all. And it just makes me chuckle because I'm like, that's justice there. That's what should happen. And if more of those things happen, maybe these people would stop for a second and think about their actions. Maybe not, but who knows? All right, well, Karens are us today, I guess. The Michael Duke Show. Tomorrow, Nick Begich. Maybe we'll see if we can sneak Mike Shower in hour one. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. See you tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know why that was just I got on that whole topic, but wow. Yeah, it's a horrible horrible thing. It's astonishing. The Super Bowl for Karens is when they or their family members are in the ER. It's been so bad in some states they have made it a felony to assault a healthcare worker. I wish Alaska would follow that lead, said Jennifer. I mean, yeah, why would you treat your help? These are people that are trying to help you. Why would you do that? Why? Anyway. It would be interesting, says Donna. Come on, pop up. It would be interesting to study the characteristics of those who are indoctrinatable. Most of them are probably French. Why do you hate the French? Why do you hate the French, Donna? All right, my friends. Well, we're going to go. Thanks for coming in. We will see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.